The screech of tires on wet asphalt split the afternoon air like a gunshot. I'd stepped off the curb without looking, my mind elsewhere, tangled in the mess of unpaid bills and the rejection email from yet another gallery that had just pinged my phone. The black Mercedes came out of nowhere, or maybe I'd walked into its path. Either way, it stopped inches from my legs, so close I could feel the heat radiating from its chrome grille. My heart hammered against my ribs, adrenaline flooding my system in a hot rush. But instead of jumping back in fear like any sane person, I did what I always did when cornered. I attacked. I slammed my palm against the hood, the sound echoing between the buildings lining this upscale street where I clearly didn't belong. "Are you fucking kidding me?" My voice came out louder than intended, sharp with fury. "You almost killed me." The driver's door opened. A man emerged with the kind of fluid grace that suggested violence was no stranger to him. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my yearly rent. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble, all sharp angles and cold perfection. But it was his eyes that arrested me. Dark, almost black, with a predatory intensity that made something primal in my chest tighten. He looked at me the way a wolf might study prey that had wandered too close to its den. Not with anger, but with something far more dangerous. Interest. "I believe," he said, his voice a low rumble with the faintest Italian accent, "you walked into my path." The audacity of it sparked my temper higher. "Your path?" I stepped closer, tilting my chin up to meet his gaze. He was at least 6 inches taller than me, but I'd never let height intimidate me. "This is a crosswalk. Pedestrians have the right of way, or did they not teach you that when you were learning to drive your luxury death machine?" Something flickered in those dark eyes. Amusement, maybe, or challenge. "Luxury death machine," he repeated, as if tasting the words. "Creative." "Apologize," I demanded, crossing my arms. My paint-stained jeans and worn leather jacket were a stark contrast to his obvious wealth, but I refused to shrink. "You nearly ran me over. The least you can do is pretend to give a damn." He tilted his head slightly, studying me with that unnerving intensity. Behind him, I noticed another man emerging from the passenger side. Bigger, broader, with the unmistakable bearing of a bodyguard. My stomach tightened with the first whisper of unease. "No one speaks to me like that," the driver said quietly. "Not a threat, just a statement of fact." "Then you're surrounded by cowards," I shot back before I could think better of it. "Or sycophants, probably both." The bodyguard tensed, his hand moving toward his jacket, but the driver held up one hand, stopping him with a gesture so slight it was barely visible. His gaze never left mine. "Bold," he murmured, and now I was certain that was amusement curving his lips. Recklessly so. "Do you know who I am?" "Should I?" I challenged, even as that whisper of unease grew louder. The way people on the sidewalk were giving us a wide berth, the way the bodyguard's hand had gone to what was almost certainly a weapon, the way this man carried himself with absolute authority. "Let me guess. Some entitled rich asshole who thinks money makes him untouchable." His smile widened, and it was the kind of smile that made my pulse spike with something that definitely wasn't fear. Close enough. He stepped closer, invading my space with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. "What's your name?" "Why would I tell you that?" "Because I want to know what to call you when I think about you later." The words were delivered so casually, so matter-of-factly, that it took a moment for their implication to sink in. Heat flooded my cheeks, but I forced myself to hold his gaze. "In your dreams." Precisely. He reached into his jacket, and I tensed. But he only withdrew a business card, black with silver lettering. He held it out between 2 fingers. "Damien Marchetti." When you're ready to apologize for stepping in front of my car, call me. When I'm ready to, I sputtered, incredulous. You're the one who needs to apologize. I like bold women, he said, ignoring my outburst entirely. And you're the boldest I've encountered in a very long time. That's rare. Valuable. His eyes traveled over me, lingering on my face, my hair, my body in a way that should have offended me, but instead sent an unwanted shiver down my spine. I'll see you again, Claire. I froze. How do you know my name? He nodded toward my messenger bag where my portfolio case was partially visible, my name printed on the label. You should be more careful. About many things. He moved back toward his car, then paused. The offer stands. Call me when you're ready. I'd rather eat glass. His laugh was low, dark, genuinely amused. We'll see. He slid back into the Mercedes with that same predatory grace. As the car pulled away, I caught a glimpse of the license plate. No numbers, just letters. DM1. Vanity plates for a man who clearly thought he owned the city. I stood there on the curb, my hands shaking slightly from the adrenaline crash. I looked down at the business card still clutched in my fingers. The name meant nothing to me, but something about the entire encounter had set off every alarm bell in my head. I should have thrown the card away, should have forgotten the whole thing. But instead, I slipped it into my pocket and told myself it was just in case I needed to report him to the police for reckless driving. The lie tasted bitter on my tongue. My apartment was a fourth-floor walk-up in a neighborhood the real estate agents euphemistically called transitional. Translation: cheap rent if you didn't mind the occasional sound of sirens and the bodega on the corner that definitely laundered money through its business. I'd lived here for 2 years, ever since I'd moved to the city with dreams of making it as an artist, and enough savings to last me 6 months. That was 30 months ago. The rejection from Galerie Noire had been my 14th this year. My paintings were too dark, too confrontational, too raw. Translation: they made wealthy collectors uncomfortable. Apparently art was supposed to be pretty and unchallenging, something to match the sofa. I dropped my keys on the tiny kitchen counter and pulled out my phone, scrolling through my contacts to my best friend Lena's number. She picked up on the second ring. "Please tell me you got good news from Noir," she said by way of greeting. "They said my work was too visceral for their current aesthetic." I kicked off my shoes and collapsed onto my threadbare sofa. Which is code for, no one wants to hang paintings about female rage and trauma in their minimalist living room. Fuck them. Your work is brilliant. Brilliance doesn't pay rent. I rubbed my temples, feeling the beginning of a headache. I've got 3 more weeks before I'm officially broke. What about that teaching position at the community center? $200 a month. That barely covers utilities. I stared at the water stain on my ceiling that looked vaguely like a mushroom cloud. I'm running out of options, Lena. You could always call your parents. And listen to my mother say I told you so for the 1,000th time. I'd rather starve. It was only half a joke. My mother had been against my move to the city from the start, convinced I was throwing away my potential on impractical fantasies. When I'd refused to come home after the first year, she'd stopped offering help. Pride, apparently, ran in the family. Something will come through, Lena said with forced optimism. It always does. But as I hung up and stared at my empty fridge, I wondered how much longer that would be true. I was 26 years old, working 3 part-time jobs that barely kept me housed and fed, watching my dreams slip further away with each rejection letter. Maybe my mother had been right. The thought made me want to scream. Instead, I pulled out my sketchbook and lost myself in drawing, the only thing that ever truly quieted the noise in my head. My charcoal moved across the page in angry strokes, creating shadows and angles that coalesced into a face I hadn't consciously decided to draw. Dark eyes, sharp jaw, a smile that promised danger. I stared at the sketch of Damien Marchetti and felt something twist in my chest. Irritation, obviously. And maybe a little bit of curiosity about why a man who could clearly have any woman he wanted had looked at me, in my thrift store clothes and paint-stained fingers, like I was something precious. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Hello? Claire. That voice, dark and smooth like expensive whiskey. I'm glad you kept my card close enough to see my number. My heart kicked into a higher gear. I didn't call you. No, I called you. Did you think I wouldn't find your number? You're listed in the directory for that building on West 47th. 4th floor, if I'm not mistaken. Ice flooded my veins. Have you been following me? I've been ensuring you got home safely after our encounter. The city can be dangerous, especially for bold women who don't watch where they're walking. That's called stalking. That's called interest. A pause. Have dinner with me tonight. The sheer audacity of it left me momentarily speechless. You nearly ran me over, refused to apologize, stalked me to my apartment, and now you think I'm going to have dinner with you. Yes. The single word, delivered with such absolute confidence, should have infuriated me. Instead, something in my traitorous body responded to it with a heat that settled low in my belly. You're insane, I managed. I prefer determined. 8 o'clock. I'll send a car. I'm not going anywhere with you. Because you're afraid of me. His voice dropped lower, more intimate. Or because you're afraid of how you felt when I looked at you. My breath caught. You're delusional. Am I? The amusement was back. Tell me your heart didn't race when I stepped close to you. Tell me you didn't feel it too, that pull, that recognition. Recognition of what? That we're the same, you and I. People who don't bend. People who'd rather burn than break. A beat of silence. 8 o'clock, Claire. The car will be waiting whether you get in or not. But I think you will. Why would I do that? Because you're curious. Because you felt it too, and because his voice went from smooth to something sharper, more dangerous. I don't think you're the kind of woman who runs from things that scare her. He hung up before I could respond. I stood there in my tiny apartment, phone clutched in my hand, heart hammering. Every rational part of my brain screamed that this was insane, that getting into a car with a strange man who'd tracked down my phone number and address was textbook stupid. But a smaller, quieter voice whispered something else. When was the last time anything interesting had happened to me? When was the last time someone had looked at me like Damien Marchetti had? When was the last time I'd felt anything besides the grinding exhaustion of survival? I looked at the time. 7:15. I had 45 minutes to decide whether I was brave or just reckless enough to find out what would happen if I said yes to a man who looked at me like I was something worth claiming. At 7:58, I stood at my window watching a sleek black sedan pull up to the curb. Not the Mercedes from earlier, but something equally expensive. A driver emerged, looked up at my building, and checked his watch. I'd changed 3 times. Settled on black jeans, a silk blouse I'd found at a vintage shop, and my only pair of heels that weren't scuffed beyond recognition. I'd told myself I was just going to see what kind of restaurant a man like Damien Marchetti chose, that I'd satisfy my curiosity and then walk away. The lies we tell ourselves. The driver's name was Marco, and he opened the car door with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. He didn't speak beyond a polite greeting, which I appreciated. I wasn't sure I could make small talk when my nerves felt like live wires. The restaurant was in a part of the city I'd never been to, where the buildings gleamed with old money and doormen stood guard like sentries. We pulled up to a discreet entrance with no sign, just a single word etched in brass. Impero. Marco opened my door. Mr. Marchetti is waiting for you upstairs. Of course there was an upstairs. Of course, this place was exclusive enough to have private floors. The interior was all dark wood and soft lighting, the kind of understated elegance that screamed wealth. A hostess in a designer dress led me to a private elevator that opened directly into what could only be described as a penthouse dining room. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. A single table was set with crystal and fine china, and standing at those windows, backlit by the glittering lights, was Damien Marchetti. He'd changed into a different suit, this one midnight blue that emphasized the breadth of his shoulders. His hair was slightly damp, as if he'd showered recently. When he turned and saw me, something heated and possessive flickered across his face. "You came," he said, moving toward me with that predatory grace. "I'm curious what kind of man stalks a woman and then expects her to have dinner with him. The kind who gets what he wants." He gestured to the table. "Please, sit." I should have walked out, should have told him exactly what he could do with his presumption and his private dining room and his penetrating gaze. Instead, I found myself moving to the chair he pulled out for me. His hand brushed my shoulder as I sat, a touch so brief it might have been accidental. But the electricity that shot through me said otherwise. "Wine?" He poured without waiting for my answer, something red that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "I haven't agreed to stay," I pointed out. "And yet, here you are." He settled into the chair across from me, his dark eyes never leaving mine. "Tell me about your art." The question caught me off guard. "How do you know I'm an artist?" "Your portfolio case. The paint under your fingernails that you tried to scrub off but couldn't quite get clean." His gaze traveled to my hands, and I resisted the urge to hide them. "The way you see the world, it's in everything about you. That's very observant for someone who nearly killed me this afternoon." "I'm a very observant man." He leaned back, the picture of casual confidence. "What do you paint?" "Things that make people uncomfortable." "Good. Art should make people uncomfortable. Comfortable art is just decoration." He sipped his wine. "What was the last piece that made you uncomfortable to create?" I studied him, trying to figure out his angle. Men like him didn't actually care about art. They collected it as status symbols, investment opportunities. But the question seemed genuine. "A series about control," I heard myself say. "About what happens when you give someone power over you, and they abuse it." Something flickered in his eyes. "Personal experience?" "Isn't all art personal?" I deflected. "Yes, but some of us are better at hiding ourselves in our work than others." He set down his glass. "You don't hide, do you, Claire? You put it all out there, raw and bleeding, and dare people to look away." The accuracy of it stole my breath. "You don't know anything about me. I know you're 26. I know you moved here from upstate to pursue art and have been rejected by every major gallery in the city. I know you work 3 jobs that barely keep you housed. I know you haven't spoken to your parents in 8 months. I know you're running out of time and options, and you're terrified that everything you sacrificed might have been for nothing." Ice flooded my veins, then heat, then fury. I stood so abruptly my chair scraped against the floor. "You investigated me?" "I told you. I'm observant." He remained seated, utterly calm in the face of my anger. "And when I want something, I learn everything about it." "I'm not an it," I snapped. "And you had no right." "You walked into my path this afternoon," he interrupted, his voice going dangerously quiet. "You challenged me, spoke to me like no one has in a very long time. Did you think I'd let that go? Did you think I wouldn't need to know who you were? So you what? Had me followed? Ran a background check?" "Both." He stood then, moving around the table toward me. I should have backed away, but I held my ground. "I needed to know if you were a threat." "A threat?" To you? I laughed, the sound bitter. I can barely pay my rent. What possible threat could I be? He was close now, close enough that I could smell his cologne. Something expensive and subtle that made my head swim. The most dangerous kind. The kind that makes me want things I shouldn't want. Do things I shouldn't do. Like stalk women? Like pursue a woman who has nothing I could possibly need and everything I suddenly can't stop thinking about. His hand came up, hovering near my face but not touching. You have no idea what you've done. Do you? Enlighten me. You looked at me like I was just a man. Not my name, not my reputation, not my power. Just a man, an asshole who nearly hit you with his car. The corners of his mouth lifted slightly. Do you know how rare that is in my world? Your world, I repeated. What exactly is your world, Damien? One you don't want to know about. Try me. He studied me for a long moment, something warring behind his eyes. Then he stepped back, creating distance between us. I run things in this city, things that happen in the dark where people like you never have to see them. I make problems disappear. I ensure certain businesses thrive while others fail. I'm the man people fear and respect in equal measure. You're a criminal. That's such a pedestrian word. He moved to the windows, looking out at the city spread below us. I'm a facilitator, a protector, a businessman who operates in markets most people pretend don't exist. The Mafia. The word tasted dangerous on my tongue. If you want to be crude about it. He glanced back at me. Does that frighten you? It should have. Every rational part of my brain screamed at me to run, to get as far from this man as possible. But looking at him standing there, silhouetted against the city lights, I felt something else entirely. Should it? I challenged. Yes. No hesitation. You should be terrified of me, Claire. You should have thrown my card away. You should have never gotten in that car tonight. You should leave right now and never look back. But you don't want me to. No. The word was almost a growl. I don't want you to leave. I want you to stay. I want you to have dinner with me and let me learn every secret you're hiding behind that fire in your eyes. I want... He stopped himself, jaw clenching. What? I pushed, taking a step toward him. What do you want? He turned to face me fully, and the raw hunger in his eyes made my breath catch. You. I want you in ways that are completely inappropriate given that we met 6 hours ago. I want to know what you taste like, what sounds you make, what it takes to make you surrender that iron will you wield like a weapon. Heat flooded through me, pooling low in my belly. That's not going to happen. Isn't it? He moved closer, eating up the space between us. Then why are you still here? Why didn't you refuse to get in the car? Why are you looking at me right now like you want to either slap me or kiss me, and you're not sure which impulse is stronger? Because he was right. God help me. He was right. This is insane, I whispered. Yes. You're dangerous. Extremely. I should leave. You should. He stopped just inches away, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body. But you won't, because you feel it too, don't you? This thing between us. This recognition. Recognition of what? That we're inevitable. His hand finally made contact, fingers trailing along my jaw with devastating gentleness. You and I, Claire. This was always going to happen from the moment you slammed your hand on my car and demanded an apology. I knew it then, and you know it now. I should have argued, should have pushed him away. Instead, I heard myself ask, are you always this arrogant? Only when I'm certain. And you're certain about this? About me? More certain than I've ever been about anything. His thumb traced my lower lip, and I felt the touch everywhere. Stay. Have dinner with me. Let me show you what it's like to be wanted by someone who never does anything halfway. And then what? My voice came out breathier than I intended. You'll expect me to fall into your bed because you bought me an expensive meal? I expect nothing. His eyes held mine, dark and intense. I hope, I want. But I don't take what isn't freely given, Claire. That's the difference between a man and a monster. Which are you? His smile was slow, dangerous, absolutely devastating. Both, depending on the circumstance. He stepped back, releasing me from whatever spell his proximity had cast. But never with you. With you, I'll only ever be a man. One who wants you desperately and is willing to work for it. The waiter appeared with our first course, perfectly timed or perhaps summoned by some signal I'd missed. I realized I was still standing, still caught in the web Damien Marchetti had spun around me with nothing but words and heated looks. I sat. He smiled like I'd just given him the world. And as I took that first bite of whatever exquisitely prepared dish had been set before me, I wondered what exactly I'd just agreed to. Dinner was a revelation, though not in the way I'd expected. Damien was intelligent, well-read, genuinely interested in my opinions about art and culture and the thousand small things that made up a life. He asked questions that made me think, challenged my assumptions without being condescending, and listened with an intensity that made me feel like I was the only person in the world. It was intoxicating, terrifying, completely addictive. Tell me about the first piece you ever sold, he said over dessert. I hesitated, unsure how he'd react to the truth. But something about the genuine curiosity in his eyes made me answer honestly. I haven't. Sold anything, I mean. 3 years in the city and not a single sale. Why not? Because I won't compromise. I won't make pretty paintings for rich people's walls. I won't sand down the edges to make my work palatable. I pushed my fork through the chocolate something or other on my plate. Apparently that makes me unmarketable, or it makes you an artist with integrity in a world that values neither. He leaned forward. Show me. What? Your work. Tomorrow. I want to see what you create that makes galleries so uncomfortable. Why? Suspicion crept into my voice. So you can buy something and make me feel like you're rescuing me? I don't need charity. Good. Because I don't give charity. I invest in things of value. His eyes held mine. And I have a feeling your work is extremely valuable. Claire, just not to the right people yet. And you're the right people. I'm someone who appreciates things that make others uncomfortable. That challenge, that refuse to be tamed. His lips curved. Seems fitting, doesn't it? I wanted to say no. Wanted to tell him I didn't need his interest, or his investment, or whatever game he was playing. But the truth was, I was desperate. 3 weeks until I couldn't make rent. 3 years of work gathering dust in my studio apartment because no one wanted to see it. Fine, I heard myself say. Tomorrow. But I'm not promising anything. Neither am I. But the satisfaction in his eyes said otherwise. Marco drove me home just before midnight. Damien walked me to the car, his hand at the small of my back, a touch that felt possessive and protective in equal measure. I'll send a car at 10, he said. I can take the subway. You could, but you won't. Because I want to know you're safe, and the subway at 10 in the morning is anything but. You're very controlling. I prefer thorough. He opened the car door for me, but before I could get in, his hand caught my wrist. Claire. I looked up at him. This dangerous man with his tailored suits and his criminal empire and his devastating focus. What? Thank you for staying tonight, for giving me a chance despite every reason not to. The sincerity in his voice caught me off guard. Don't make me regret it. I'll try not to. He released my wrist, fingers trailing across my pulse point. Sleep well, as if I'd be able to sleep after a night like this. The car arrived at 9:50. I'd spent the morning in a panic, trying to decide what to show him, what would make him understand that my work wasn't just decoration. Finally, I'd settled on my most recent series. 5 paintings that explored power dynamics, control, the thin line between protection and possession. Looking at them now, I wondered if I'd subconsciously been painting him before I'd even met him. The car took me to an address in the financial district. A gleaming tower of steel and glass with Marchetti Industries etched in platinum letters above the entrance. Of course, he had a legitimate business front. Men like him always did. Marco escorted me to a private elevator that opened directly into a penthouse office that took my breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city. The space was all dark wood and leather, masculine and powerful, with artwork on the walls that I recognized as original pieces by artists I'd studied in school. And standing at those windows, phone pressed to his ear, was Damien. He was speaking rapid Italian, his voice hard and cold in a way I hadn't heard before. This was the other side of him, the one that ran a criminal empire, the one who made problems disappear. He noticed me and held up one finger. Wait. I waited, taking in the space. There was a sitting area with leather chairs that probably cost more than my yearly income, a bar stocked with bottles I couldn't afford a single pour from, and the art. God, the art was stunning. Pieces that challenged and confronted and refused to be ignored. He liked difficult art, just like he apparently liked difficult women. The thought made something warm unfurl in my chest. Mi dispiace, he said into the phone, his voice dropping to something dangerous. But if Santoro thinks he can move product through my territory without paying his percentage, he's more stupid than I thought. Make it clear what happens to people who disrespect our agreements. I want his kneecaps, not his life. Yet. He hung up and turned to me, his expression shifting from cold fury to something warmer in an instant. Claire, I apologize for that. Making someone pay their debt? I tried to keep my voice light, though my heart was hammering. Something like that. He crossed to me, his gaze moving to the portfolio case I'd brought. Is that them? The paintings, yes. I suddenly felt vulnerable, exposed in a way I hadn't anticipated. But maybe this was a mistake. You're clearly busy, and show me. It wasn't a request. I set up the canvases on the easels I'd found waiting in his office, obviously prepared for this purpose. As I revealed each one, I watched Damien's face for his reaction. The first piece was a woman bound in golden chains, her expression not fearful but defiant. The second showed 2 figures locked in an embrace that could have been love or violence, the line deliberately blurred. The third depicted a throne made of broken promises, empty and waiting. The fourth was my favorite, a man and woman facing each other across a chessboard where the pieces were their own hearts, bleeding onto the squares. The fifth, I'd almost left behind. It was the most raw, the most personal. A woman standing at the edge of a cliff, wings unfurling from her back, caught in the moment before flight or fall. Damien stood before each painting in silence, his expression unreadable. Minutes passed. My anxiety grew with each second of quiet. Finally, he spoke. These are extraordinary. You're just saying that. I never just say anything. He moved to stand before the final painting, the woman with wings. This one. Tell me about it. It's about the moment before you make a choice that changes everything. The moment where you could still go back to safety or leap into the unknown. Which did she choose? I don't know yet. The truth felt important. I painted it last week, and I still don't know. He turned to look at me, his dark eyes intense. I think you do know. I think you chose the moment you got in the car last night. My breath caught. You're reading too much into it. Am I? He moved closer, eating up the space between us with that predatory grace. You paint what you feel, Claire, what you fear and want in equal measure. And this, he gestured to the painting, this is you standing on that cliff, wondering if I'm the fall or the flight. That's, I started to protest, but the words died as he stopped just inches away. Which am I? His voice was low, intimate. Your destruction or your liberation? I don't know yet. Then let me show you. His hand came up to cut my face, thumb stroking my cheek with devastating gentleness. Let me prove that I can be both, that I can give you everything you need and everything you've been too afraid to want. This is insane, I whispered. We barely know each other. I know enough. I know you're brilliant and stubborn and so goddamn brave it takes my breath away. I know you'd rather starve than compromise your art. I know you look at me like I'm dangerous and can't decide if that excites or terrifies you. His forehead nearly touched mine. I know that when I touch you, your pupils dilate and your breath catches and you lean into me even as you tell yourself you shouldn't. He was right. God. He was right about all of it. What do you want from me? I asked, my voice barely audible. Everything. No hesitation. Your time, your attention, your trust. Eventually, if I earn it, your body and your heart. His thumb traced my lower lip. I want to be the one who makes your world bigger instead of smaller, who gives you the freedom to create without fear, who protects you from everything except me. That doesn't sound like freedom. No, he agreed. It sounds like surrender, but not the kind that breaks you, the kind that makes you stronger because you're no longer fighting alone. I should have pushed him away. Should have told him he was crazy if he thought pretty words and expensive dinners would make me fall into his arms. Instead, I found myself asking, and if I say yes? If I let you into my life? What then? Then I buy every single one of these paintings. I connect you with collectors who will appreciate what you create. I ensure you never have to choose between your art and survival again. He paused. And in return, you give me what I want, which is you, in my life, in my bed, in my world, not as possession, but as partner, as the one person who sees me clearly and chooses me anyway. That's a lot to ask for some gallery connections. I'm not offering gallery connections. His voice dropped lower, more intense. I'm offering everything, Claire. My protection, my resources, my devotion, everything I have and everything I am. All I'm asking is that you be brave enough to take it. And if I can't, if I'm not ready, then I wait. Simple, absolute. I court you properly. I prove myself worthy. I show you every day that I'm not like the men who hurt you before, who made you believe that surrender meant weakness. How do you know anyone hurt me? Because I see it in your work, in the way you paint control and fear, and the desperate need to be free. His hand slid into my hair, cradling my skull with surprising tenderness. Someone made you afraid of wanting things, of needing someone. And I'm going to spend however long it takes showing you that wanting me won't destroy you. You're very confident. I'm very certain. He leaned in, his lips hovering just over mine. Say yes, Claire. Let me into your world. Let me show you what it's like to be cherished by someone who understands that strength isn't the absence of vulnerability, but the courage to be vulnerable with the right person. His proximity was making it impossible to think. I could feel his breath on my lips, smell that intoxicating cologne, feel the heat radiating from his body. Every nerve ending screamed at me to close the distance, to find out what he tasted like, to let him show me everything he'd promised. But a small, terrified voice whispered that once I said yes, there would be no going back. "I need time," I managed. "Take it." He pulled back slightly, creating space I simultaneously craved and mourned. "But know this. I've already decided, Claire. You're mine. The only question is when you'll accept it." The possession in his voice should have scared me. Instead, it sent heat flooding through my system in a way that was absolutely dangerous. "I should go," I said, though I made no move toward the door. "You should," he agreed, though his hand remained in my hair. "But you won't, because you want to know what happens next. What I'll do, how far I'll go to prove that I mean every word." He was reading me too easily, seeing too clearly. It was unnerving and thrilling in equal measure. "One dinner," I heard myself say. "One more chance to prove you're not just another rich man with a savior complex." His smile was slow, victorious. "Deal. Tomorrow night. And Claire." "What?" "Wear something you feel powerful in, because I'm going to introduce you to my world, and I want everyone to see exactly what you are to me." "And what's that?" "Mine." The word hung between us, weighted with promise and threat in equal measure. And as I finally forced myself to leave his office, my paintings still set up like offerings on their easels, I wondered if I'd just agreed to something wonderful or terrible. Probably both. The dress arrived at my apartment the next afternoon, delivered by a woman in a pristine suit who introduced herself as Sophia, Damien's assistant. She carried a garment bag and a smaller box, both marked with the logo of a designer I'd only ever seen in fashion magazines. "Mr. Marchetti thought you might appreciate some options for this evening," Sophia said, her professional smile never wavering. He was very specific about the style. Powerful but not ostentatious, elegant but not delicate. I should have refused. Should have sent it all back with a message that I could dress myself. But curiosity won, and when Sophia left, I unzipped the garment bag. The dress was stunning. Deep emerald green silk that would complement my dark hair and pale skin. The cut was sophisticated, with a high neck but an open back that plunged dangerously low. It would hug my curves while still allowing movement, making me feel like a weapon wrapped in silk. He'd chosen perfectly. I hated that he knew me this well already. The smaller box contained shoes, delicate heels in black with emerald accents, and a simple necklace of white gold and diamonds that was somehow more devastating in its simplicity than anything ostentatious would have been. There was a note in his handwriting. Strong, decisive strokes that matched everything else about him. "You would have looked stunning in anything, but I wanted you to feel as powerful as you are, D." I stood there in my tiny apartment, surrounded by the evidence of his wealth and power and devastating attention to detail, and felt something inside me shift. This wasn't just attraction or curiosity anymore. This was something deeper, more dangerous. This was the cliff's edge, and I was already leaning into the fall. Marco arrived at 7:30. The drive took us to a part of the city I'd never been, where old money lived behind iron gates and manicured hedges. We pulled up to a mansion that looked like it had been transported from a European estate, all stone and glass with lights glowing warm in the gathering dusk. "Mr. Marchetti is hosting a small gathering tonight," Marco said as he opened my door. "Associates and their wives. He wants to introduce you." My stomach tightened with nerves. What kind of associates? Marco's expression remained neutral. The kind who respect power and loyalty above all else. Translation: criminals. I was about to be introduced to Damien's world, the dark underbelly where he ruled. The interior of the house was breathtaking. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, artwork that belonged in museums. And everywhere, people. Men in expensive suits with hard eyes and beautiful women who wore their designer dresses like armor. Damien found me the moment I entered, as if he'd been waiting. He crossed the room with that predatory grace, his dark eyes traveling over me in a way that made heat pool low in my belly. "Claire," he breathed, taking my hand and bringing it to his lips. "You're stunning." "You chose well," I managed, hyper-aware of the eyes watching us. "I chose what would make you feel invincible." He tucked my hand into his arm, anchoring me to his side. "Come, there are people I want you to meet." The next hour was a blur of introductions. Antonio Ricci, who controlled the waterfront. His wife Gabriella, whose smile never quite reached her eyes. Marco Santoro, the man Damien had threatened on the phone, now deferential and polite. Vincent DeLucci, whose reputation for violence preceded him, yet who kissed my hand with old-world courtesy. They all treated me with respect, but I could see the calculation in their eyes. Who was I? Why had Damien brought me here? What did it mean? "They're wondering if you're temporary or permanent," Damien murmured in my ear as we moved through the crowd. "If you're just another woman or something more. What should I tell them?" "Nothing. Let them wonder." His hand on my waist tightened possessively, though I'll make it clear soon enough. Dinner was served in a formal dining room that seated 30. Damien had me beside him at the head of the table, a position that wasn't lost on anyone. This was the seat of honor, reserved for someone significant. I was being claimed publicly, and everyone knew it. "Tell me, Claire," Gabriella said from across the table, her voice carrying in a lull of conversation. "What do you do?" "I'm an artist." "How lovely. What medium?" "Painting, mostly oils." "And have you shown anywhere?" The question was casual, but I heard the underlying judgment. Was I successful enough to be here? "Not yet," I said, refusing to be embarrassed. "I'm still building my portfolio." "Claire's work is extraordinary," Damien interjected smoothly. "Raw, powerful, uncompromising. Exactly the kind of art that will define the next generation." "You've seen it?" Antonio asked, interest sharpening his gaze. "Yesterday. Every piece challenged me, made me think, made me feel. That's rare." Damien's hand found mine under the table, squeezing gently. "I've purchased the entire series." I turned to stare at him. "You what?" "Purchased all 5 paintings. They'll be displayed in my private collection." His eyes held mine. "I told you I invest in things of value." "You didn't tell me you'd already decided." "I decided the moment I saw them." His thumb stroked across my knuckles. "Just like I decided about you." Heat flooded my cheeks. The intimacy of the conversation, happening in front of all these people, should have embarrassed me. Instead, it felt like armor. Like Damien was showing everyone exactly what I meant to him. After dinner, the party moved to a library that looked like it belonged in a castle. Leather-bound books lined floor-to-ceiling shelves, a fireplace crackled with real flames, and a bar served drinks that probably cost more per glass than I made in a week. "You're making quite the impression," a woman said beside me. She was older, perhaps 50, with sharp eyes and an elegant bearing. "I'm Lucia Marchetti, Damien's aunt." "Claire." I shook her offered hand. "It's nice to meet you, is it?" She studied me with unsettling intensity. "Most women who meet the family are either terrified or calculating. You seem neither." "Should I be?" "That depends on whether you're serious about my nephew or just enjoying the perks." "No judgment, just curiosity." "He doesn't bring women home, Claire. Ever. In the 15 years since his father died and he took over the family business, you're the first woman to sit at his right hand at dinner. The first to be introduced to associates. The first to matter." My heart hammered. We barely know each other. And yet he looks at you like you're the answer to a question he's been asking his whole life. Lucia smiled, something almost sad in it. "Be careful, dear. Marchetti men love with an intensity that can consume. Once Damien decides you're his, he won't let go." no matter the cost. Before I could respond, Damien appeared at my side. Zia Lucia, I hope you're not scaring Claire away. Just making sure she understands what she's getting into. Lucia patted his cheek affectionately. Be good to this one, Damien. She's different. I know. His arm slid around my waist, pulling me against his side. That's why I'm not letting her go. As Lucia walked away, I looked up at him. You told me you'd give me time. I am giving you time. Time to adjust, to understand, to accept what's already true. His hand splayed possessively on my lower back. But I'm not pretending I'm patient about it, Claire. I want you. And everyone here now knows it. This is all happening very fast. Yes. No apology. But tell me honestly, does it feel wrong? I wanted to say yes. Wanted to tell him that this was insane and reckless and moving at a pace that terrified me. But the truth was, standing here in his arms, surrounded by his world, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Safe. Seen. Wanted for exactly who I was. No, I admitted quietly. It doesn't feel wrong. It feels inevitable. His smile was slow, victorious. Good. Because there's something I need to show you. He led me through the house to a wing I hadn't seen yet. We climbed a private staircase to the 3rd floor, where he opened a door and flipped on lights. I gasped. It was a studio. A massive, gorgeous studio with north-facing windows that would catch perfect natural light. Easels stood ready. Supplies lined shelves, a workspace that was clearly designed by someone who understood what an artist needed. I had it prepared today, Damien said from behind me. After I saw your work, after I understood what you create, I knew you needed proper space. This is yours, Claire. Use it however you want. Create whatever you need to create. No expectations, no requirements. Just space to be the artist you are. I turned to face him, tears pricking my eyes. Why are you doing this? Not because you deserve it. Because your talent shouldn't be stifled by circumstance. He crossed to me, cupping my face in his hands. Because I want to be the person who makes your world bigger, not smaller, who gives you freedom instead of taking it away. This is too much. It's not nearly enough. His thumb brushed away a tear that had escaped. Let me give you this, Claire. Let me give you everything. All I ask is that you let me in, that you trust me enough to try. I looked into his dark eyes and saw raw honesty there. Whatever else Damien Marchetti was, criminal, dangerous, possessive, he was also this. A man who saw what I needed and provided it without strings, without expectations. Okay, I whispered. Okay? Okay, I'll try. I'll let you in. I'll see where this goes. I placed my hands over his. But I need you to be honest with me. About everything. About who you are and what you do. No more secrets. Something shifted in his expression. Everything? Everything that matters. Everything that could hurt me. He was silent for a long moment, his jaw tightening. Then he nodded. All right. But not here. Not tonight. Tonight, I just want to be with you without the darkness creeping in. Tomorrow, then. Tomorrow. He agreed. Then he kissed me. It was nothing like I'd expected. Not demanding or forceful, but achingly gentle. His lips moved over mine with a reverence that stole my breath. His hands cradling my face like I was something precious. He kissed me like I mattered, like I was worth savoring. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. I've been wanting to do that since you slammed your hand on my car, he admitted. You should have led with that instead of the stalking. His laugh was warm, genuine. I'll remember that for next time. There won't be a next time. I'm not leaving now. No, he agreed, pulling me closer. You're not. You're mine now, Claire, and I don't let go of what's mine. The possession in his voice should have scared me. Instead, it made me feel invincible. Because for the first time in my life, I was choosing the fall. And Damien Marchetti would be there to catch me. The next morning, I woke in Damien's bed. Nothing had happened beyond kissing that had left me breathless and aching. But he'd refused to let me leave. Stay, he'd murmured against my lips. I want to wake up with you here. So I had. And now in the early morning light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, I watched him sleep. He looked younger like this, the hard edges softened by rest. His dark hair was messed from my fingers running through it during those endless kisses. His jaw, which he shaved twice a day, showed the shadow of stubble. He was beautiful and dangerous and mine. The thought should have terrified me. Instead, it felt like coming home. His eyes opened, focusing on me immediately. You're staring. You're worth staring at. A slow smile curved his lips. Careful. Compliments like that will go to my head. Your ego doesn't need any help. No, he agreed, reaching for me and pulling me against his chest. But I like hearing it from you anyway. I settled into his warmth, my head tucked under his chin. This casual intimacy felt natural in a way nothing in my life ever had, like we'd been doing this for years instead of days. You promised honesty today, I reminded him. His body tensed slightly. I did. So tell me. Everything. What you really do. Why people fear you. What I'm getting into by being with you. He was quiet for so long I thought he might refuse. Then he sighed, his arms tightening around me. My family has been in organized crime for 4 generations. Started with my great-grandfather who came from Sicily with nothing and built an empire through protection, gambling, smuggling. Each generation expanded, legitimized some operations while maintaining others in the shadows. What do you control now? The ports, half the construction in the city, several casinos and nightclubs, protection services for businesses who want to operate without interference from other families. He paused. And some things I won't tell you about because knowing would make you complicit. Drugs? I don't touch narcotics. Too much collateral damage. But I do handle weapons, information, influence. His voice was matter of fact, as if discussing a normal business. I ensure certain politicians get elected. I make problems disappear for people who can afford my services. I maintain the peace between families through whatever means necessary. Violence, when required, yes. I should have been horrified, should have pulled away from him immediately. But lying there in his arms, I found I couldn't muster the outrage. Maybe because I'd grown up watching people with legitimate power abuse it legally. At least Damien was honest about what he was. Have you killed anyone? The question escaped before I could stop it. Yes. The simple answer sent a chill through me. Why? Because they threatened what was mine. Because they broke agreements that keep this city from descending into war. Because sometimes violence is the only language certain people understand. His hand stroked down my back. Does that frighten you? It should. But it doesn't? I don't know. I pulled back to look at him. I should be running from you right now. Should be terrified of what you're capable of. But all I can think is that you've been nothing but gentle with me. That you've given me more freedom in 3 days than I've had in 3 years. That you look at me like I'm precious. You are precious. To me, you're everything. You barely know me. I know enough. His hand cupped my face. I know you're brave enough to challenge me. Strong enough to see what I am and not flinch. Talented enough to deserve every opportunity I can give you. That's enough for me to know I want you in my life permanently. Permanently is a big word. I'm a big commitment kind of man. His thumb traced my jaw. I don't do casual, Claire. I don't do temporary. When I want something, I claim it completely. And I want you completely. What if I can't give you that? What if I need time to figure out if I can live with what you do? Then I give you time, but I don't let you go. His eyes were intense, unwavering. You're mine now. That doesn't change whether you need a week or a year to accept it. I'll wait. I'll prove myself. I'll show you every day that I'm worth the risk. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed insistently on the nightstand. He glanced at it, his expression darkening. What is it? Problem at the port. I need to handle it. He kissed me briefly, thoroughly. Stay here. Use the studio, explore the house, relax. I'll be back by afternoon. I have things at my apartment. I'll have someone pack up anything you need and bring it here. Damien. You're not going back there, Claire. Not when I can keep you safe here. His voice went hard. That apartment isn't secure. The building has no doorman, the locks are garbage, and you're on the 4th floor with a fire escape anyone could climb. I won't have you vulnerable. I've lived there for 2 years. That was before you were mine, before people might see you as a way to get to me. He stood, already reaching for clothes. I'm not asking, Claire. You're staying here where I can protect you. The high-handedness should have infuriated me. Instead, I felt that now familiar warmth spreading through my chest. He was controlling, yes, but it came from genuine concern, not a need to diminish me. Fine, I conceded. But I need my painting supplies, and my clothes, and my... Make a list. I'll have everything brought over. He was already dressed, looking every inch the dangerous man I'd chosen to trust. He leaned down, kissing me once more. Be here when I get back. Where else would I go? Nowhere. His smile was possessive. Because you're mine. After he left, I explored the mansion properly. It was enormous, room after room of understated luxury. But it was the studio he'd prepared for me that kept drawing me back. I spent hours there, surrounded by supplies I'd only dreamed of owning, staring at blank canvases and trying to process everything that had happened in the past 3 days. 3 days. That's all it had been since Damien Marchetti had nearly run me over and turned my entire world upside down. I should have been terrified, should have been running. Instead, I found myself picking up a brush and beginning to paint. The image that emerged was him. Dark eyes intense with desire and possession, strong jaw set with determination. But around him, I painted shadows and light intertwined, representing everything he was. Dangerous and protective, criminal and caring, possessive and freeing. A contradiction that somehow made perfect sense. I was so lost in the work that I didn't hear him return. Didn't realize he was there until I felt his presence behind me. Close enough to feel his heat, but not touching. Is that how you see me? His voice was rough. I set down my brush, suddenly nervous. Yes. Light and shadow both. You said you were a man and a monster. I'm painting both. He moved then, his arms wrapping around me from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder as he studied the painting. You see me clearly, don't you? Everything I am, good and bad. Is that a problem? No. His arms tightened. It's everything. Most people see what they want to see or what they fear. You see the truth. And what truth is that? That I'm dangerous but not to you. That I'm capable of violence but use it to protect, not destroy without reason. That I want to possess you, but only because the alternative, existing without you, is unbearable. I turned in his arms, looking up at him. You're moving very fast for someone who claims to be giving me time. I'm being honest. There's a difference. His hand slid into my hair. I could lie, pretend to be patient, hide how completely I want you, but that would be dishonest, and you asked for honesty. This is honestly? This is me telling you that I think about you constantly, that I want to wake up with you every morning and fall asleep with you every night, that I want to show you off to my world and keep you hidden away just for me in equal measure, that I want everything, Claire, and I'm done pretending otherwise. What if I'm not ready for everything? Then I take what you can give and wait for the rest. His forehead pressed to mine. But I'm not letting you go. I'm not pretending this is casual. I'm claiming you openly, publicly, completely. And if that scares you, good. Be scared. Be uncertain. But don't run. Trust me enough to stay. Why? The question broke from me. Why me? You could have anyone. Someone from your world who understands it, who's prepared for it. I don't want anyone from my world. I want you. The woman who looked at me with fire instead of fear, who challenged me instead of fawning, who sees exactly what I am and is brave enough to stay anyway. His hands framed my face. You're real, Claire. In a world of artifice and calculation, you're genuine. And I've been waiting my whole life for real. Tears pricked my eyes. I don't know how to do this. How to be with someone like you. Then learn. With me. Let me teach you my world while you teach me yours. Let us figure this out together. He kissed me softly. I'm not asking for perfection. I'm asking for trust, for time, for a chance to prove that I can be what you need. And what do I need? Someone who makes you feel safe enough to be dangerous. Someone who sees your fire and fans the flames instead of trying to extinguish them. Someone who wants you exactly as you are, sharp edges and all. His thumb brushed away a tear. Someone who loves you. My breath caught. Love? We've known each other 3 days. Love doesn't run on schedules, Claire. It just is. His eyes held mine, dark and intense and absolutely certain. I love you. I loved you from the moment you slammed your hand on my car and demanded an apology. I loved you more when you challenged me at dinner. I loved you completely when I saw your paintings and understood your soul. This isn't infatuation or obsession. This is recognition. Of finding the person who fits the empty spaces you didn't know existed. That's not possible. Tell me you don't feel it too. His voice dropped to a whisper. Tell me you don't lie awake thinking about me, that your heart doesn't race when I'm near, that you don't feel this pull between us like gravity, inevitable and inescapable. Tell me, and I'll back off. I'll give you space. But you can't, can you? Because you feel it too. He was right. God help me. He was right about all of it. I'm terrified, I admitted. Good. Be terrified. I am too. His confession surprised me. I'm terrified of what you make me feel, of how completely I want you, of what I'd do to keep you safe, of how easily you could destroy me if you wanted. He pulled me closer. But I'm choosing to be brave, to take the risk, to say the terrifying truth out loud. I love you, Claire. Completely. Irrevocably. Forever. Damien, you don't have to say it back. Not until you mean it. Not until you're sure. He kissed me again, deeper this time, more urgent. Just don't leave. Stay with me. Let me show you every day what it means to be loved by someone who'll burn the world down before letting anyone hurt you. And as he carried me from the studio to his bedroom, as he laid me down on silk sheets and worshipped my body with a reverence that stole my breath, as he murmured Italian endearments against my skin and made me shatter in his arms, I realized something terrifying and wonderful. I was already falling in love with him too. 3 weeks later, I stood in a gallery in Chelsea, watching wealthy collectors examine my paintings. The opening had been Damien's idea, arranged through connections I didn't question. Every piece was priced at figures that made my head spin, and already, red dots appeared next to 3 of them. Sold. "Congratulations," a woman said beside me. She was elegant, probably 50s, with the look of someone who collected art seriously. "Your work is extraordinary. The way you capture power dynamics, it's visceral. Thank you." "Is it autobiographical?" "The painting of the woman with wings, particularly. It feels deeply personal." I glanced at the piece in question. The woman at the cliff's edge, caught between falling and flying. I'd painted it before meeting Damien, but looking at it now, I understood it differently. It was when I created it, but the answer has changed. She jumped? She flew. I smiled. Turns out they're the same thing when you're brave enough. The woman smiled back and moved on to examine the next piece. I felt Damien's presence before his arm slid around my waist. "You're a success," he murmured in my ear. "Just like I knew you would be. Because you arranged it. Because you're talented. I just provided the platform." His lips brushed my temple. "Are you happy?" I looked around the gallery, at my paintings on these pristine white walls, at people actually paying attention to my work, discussing it, valuing it, at the red dots multiplying, at the life I'd been building in Damien's world. "Yes," I admitted. "I'm happy, terrified and uncertain and still figuring things out, but happy." "Good." His hold tightened possessively. "Because I have something I need to ask you." "What?" He pulled back slightly, his dark eyes serious. "Move in with me, officially. Not just staying at my house, but making it our home. Your studio, your space, your life, tangled completely with mine." My heart stuttered. "Damien, I know it's fast. I know you need time. But I also know that I want to wake up with you every morning. That I want your paintings on my walls and your chaos in my ordered life. That I want everything, Claire. And I'm done pretending I'm patient about it. You're supposed to be giving me time to adjust. I've given you 3 weeks. In that time, you've painted 12 new pieces, had a gallery opening, met everyone important in my life, and let me make love to you more times than I can count." His thumb traced my jaw. "How much more time do you need to know this is real?" "It's not about time." I struggled to find words. "It's about being sure. About knowing I can live with what you do. With the danger. With the constant awareness that you're not just a man, but a king in a world I barely understand." "And have you decided? Can you live with it?" I thought about the past 3 weeks. About learning Damien's world from the inside. About meeting his associates, understanding the codes they lived by, seeing how he maintained peace through a combination of respect and fear. About watching him be ruthless with enemies and tender with me. About feeling safer with a criminal than I'd ever felt with anyone legal. "Yes," I said finally. "I can live with it, because I love you." The words hung between us, weighted with everything they meant. His eyes darkened, something fierce and possessive flashing across his face. "Say that again." "I love you." Stronger this time, more certain. "I love you despite every reason I shouldn't. I love that you're dangerous to everyone but me. I love that you see my fire and fan the flames. I love that you claim me openly and protect me fiercely. I love you, Damien Marchetti. Completely." He kissed me then, right there in the gallery with a dozen people watching. Kissed me like I was oxygen and he'd been drowning. Kissed me with a passion that left me breathless and clinging to him. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. "Marry me," I blinked. "What?" "Marry me. Be my wife, officially. Legally, in every way that matters. Let me claim you before God and the world." His hands framed my face. "I know it's fast. I know it's insane. But I don't care. I want you permanently, Claire. I want you wearing my ring and bearing my name and knowing that you're mine forever." "Damien, don't answer now. Think about it. Take the time you need." He pressed a kiss to my forehead. "But know that I'm not asking lightly. When I say forever, I mean it. When I say mine, I mean it. I'm offering you everything I am and everything I have. The only question is whether you're brave enough to take it." I looked into his eyes and saw raw honesty there. This wasn't a man playing games or manipulating me. This was Damien Marchetti, powerful and dangerous and utterly certain, offering me his heart. "Ask me again tomorrow," I said, "when I've had time to process." "Fair enough." He tucked me against his side as we moved through the gallery. "But my answer will be the same every time you delay. Yes, forever. Mine." The next morning, I woke wrapped in Damien's arms, morning light streaming through windows that overlooked the city he controlled. He was already awake, watching me with that intensity that still made my heart race. "I thought about your proposal," I said without preamble. "And?" "Ask me again." His eyes searched mine. "Are you sure?" "Ask me." He shifted, pulling me on top of him so we were face to face. "Claire, will you marry me? Will you be my wife, my partner, my queen? Will you let me love you for the rest of our lives and probably longer, because I don't think death will be enough to stop me?" I smiled, tears pricking my eyes. "Yes. Yes. Yes. I'll marry you. I'll be your wife. I'll let you love me." I kissed him softly. "And I'll love you back just as fiercely." His arms crushed me against him, his face buried in my neck. I felt him tremble slightly and realized this powerful man who commanded an empire was undone by my acceptance. "Mine," he breathed against my skin. "Yours," I agreed. "Just like you're mine. Always." He pulled back, his eyes bright. "I have something for you." He reached for the nightstand, pulling out a velvet box. Inside was a ring that stole my breath. An emerald surrounded by diamonds, the stone the same deep green as the dress he'd chosen for me. "It was my grandmother's," he said, as he slid it onto my finger. "She told me once to only give it to a woman who challenged me, who made me better instead of weaker, who saw the man beneath the monster and loved both." His eyes held mine. "That's you, Claire. You're everything she hoped I'd find." I looked at the ring, then back at him. "I love you. I love you too. More than I thought possible." He pulled me down for a kiss. "You're mine now, Claire. Forever." "Forever," I agreed. And as he made love to me with the morning sun painting us both in gold, as he murmured promises against my skin and made me shatter in his arms, I understood something profound. I'd run into his path by accident, had challenged him without thinking, had let him chase me without meaning to be caught. But somewhere along the way, the chase had become a dance, the danger had become safety, the possession had become partnership. Damien Marchetti had claimed me as his, yes, but I'd claimed him right back. And in that mutual claiming, we'd found something rare and precious. Love that didn't shrink you but made you bigger. Safety that came from being seen completely. Freedom that came from surrendering to someone who'd protect that freedom fiercely. "What are you thinking?" Damien asked, tracing patterns on my bare shoulder. "That I almost got hit by a car 3 weeks ago and ended up finding everything I didn't know I needed. Best accident of both our lives." His smile was slow, satisfied, though I maintain you walked into my path on purpose. "I did not. Subconsciously then. Your soul recognized mine before your mind caught up." That's ridiculous. And yet, here we are. He pulled me closer. Engaged, in love, planning a future. Tell me that's not fate. I couldn't, because looking at him, at this dangerous, beautiful man who'd turned my world upside down, I believed in fate for the first time in my life. I love you, I said again, because I couldn't say it enough. I love you too. He kissed me softly. My bold, brave, beautiful Claire. Mine forever. Yours forever, I agreed, and meant it with every fiber of my being.